Well, what do you know?
Simple but expensive. Thanks for coming, Joe.
Sid?
Harry Connors, Vice President in charge of Public Relations.
Joe?
Charlie Carruthers, Program Director for the network.
Right.
Carruthers?
Nick Celentano, Herb's Public Relations man.
Nick. Joe?
And, of course, Phil Carlton, President of Amalgamated.
Make yourself comfortable, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Joe, I'm sure it's as obvious to you as it was obvious to the rest of us that we couldn't just bury Herb like that. The people wouldn't want it that way. Well, first off, we came up with St. Patrick's Cathedral, and most of us felt it was ideal. It's large, centrally located, and, well, you know, it does have a certain dignity. We thought to have Herb lie in state for a couple of days like that place in England, Westminster Abbey. They wouldn't buy it. They're very nice about it, but they just wouldn't buy it. Besides, Herb wasn't a Catholic. Oh, by the way, Harry, did you ever find out what Herb was?
I don't think you could honestly say he was much of anything.
Well, after we vetoed St. Patrick's Cathedral, we kicked around a couple of ideas, and finally we came up with one. Yankee Stadium. The Polo Grounds was out because the Giants are home this week. Then after a while, we realized that that wouldn't be quite dignified enough, and we canceled out Madison Square Garden for the same reason. Then Harry here came up with a perfect idea. Studio 41.
You know that old movie house over on the east side? The carpenters are tearing it apart right now and rebuilding it. They'll be working all night, and by morning we'll have a chapel with stained glass windows, the works. We'll move in the coffin and open it to the public daily from 9 to 5. We've arranged for a change of flowers every 4 hours. There'll be spot announcements every half hour, and by the middle of the morning, the place should be jammed. Charlie, fill Joe in on your end of it.
Well, the religious department has set up a rotating schedule of choirs, all denominations. It's a plus that Herb wasn't identified with any particular creed. There'll be singing groups working all day. The mic will be hidden in the flower beds. Our TV is cleared 15 minutes a day from now on until the funeral Saturday morning, and we'll have a different distinguished speaker in every day delivering a eulogy. How many stations have we cleared for it, Harry?
54 up to now. The rest will come in line.
It's our feeling that this whole thing must have a great deal of dignity to it. We can't make a circus out of Fuller's memory.
And to be mercenary for a moment, the amount of billing he's represented to this network.
That's right, Harry.
Now, Joe, let's get around to you. Sid, as you probably know, has no right being in this setup. No offense, Sid. But he's local. And on the surface, this is a network operation. However, the thinking seems to be that since Sid found Fuller in the first place, and since he has a certain claim to attention that I won't go into here, we'd bring him into the picture. And he brought you into the picture. Sid was all for moving you right into Fuller's shows immediately. I'm against that. Sid's a good boy. I like Sid, but I'm still running this network.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it that way, Phil. It was just a suggestion.
That's all right, Sid. I'm not trying to chastise you. I'm just being blunt and frank. I'm all for keeping Joe Harris on the wraps for a while. I'm not unaware of your talents, Joe, but as of now, you don't have the stature to step into Fuller's shoes. Do us all a lot of harm to overlook that fact. You're big in New York, but do I have to remind you, New York is not America. And we have to prepare them for Harris, give him a leg up the saddle. Charlie, you want to take it from there?
All right, Harris, this is the way it goes. We've cleared the full network for a special memorial program on Friday night at 10. Now, our original idea was to put on an all-star show like the cancer and heart benefits, every big name in the business. But Sid here sold us on you instead, on the grounds of your close personal relationship with Fuller.
Joe and I were pretty broken up when we left that hospital. We talked a lot. Joe, why don't you tell him what you told me on the way back from Hartford?
Well, I'd like to do something simple because I think that was Herb Fuller's basic appeal. He was the common man amplified. If you're a skinny little runt, you can't kid yourself into thinking that you look like Tony Curtis, and you know that Jane Russell wouldn't give you a second look. But with Herb Fuller, it was different. He was just like you, so you could identify yourself with him. He was everybody's husband or brother who once in a while tells an off-color story or gets a little loaded at a party and puts a lampshade on his head. I got where I am the hard way, by finding a story and digging into it. I'd like to go back to being a reporter instead of just doing a benefit with a lot of stars. I'd like to get my tape machine and talk to the people that knew Herb. Come up with an intimate picture, a portrait in sound of a great man. I think Herb Fuller would have liked that kind of a memorial.
I'll buy it.
All right,
I'll buy it.
Wonderful.
Okay, Harris, it's your baby. You're on your own. Nick will turn over to you all the biomaterial on Fuller.
Nick?
Joe? Call on anybody at Amalgamated for anything you need.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll cancel out your show for the rest of the week. I'll
Relax,
throw on a
man.
disc jockey with some records. You better get on home. You're going to need some sleep.
Nick, I'll see you in the morning.
Right.
Thank you all very much, and I'll try to do my best.
I'll walk down the elevator.
Good.
Well, just a minute.
What?
You sit down over here a minute.
Now what?
This is our marriage license. I don't call signals or open up any holes in the line for you to go through until you sign this contract.
Suppose I don't sign it.
Well, then, like the man says, we'll put on an all-star benefit type show Friday night, and you'll be back on the nightclub beat. Want you gonna read it?
What for?
That's a good boy. You go home and get some sleep. I better get back in there.
Oh, yes, here's the official bio on Herb Fuller. This is the first piece I ever filed. Just don't try and verify any of it.
Nick, I thought I'd go up to Connecticut and get a tape with Fran and the kids.
Well, that's fine. It's a good idea.
What's she like?
Fran? Oh, she's a good kid. She'll give you exactly the kind of tapes that you want.
What kind of a marriage was that, anyway?
Well, you know, Fran liked being Mrs. Herb Fuller, and after the marriage stopped being a marriage, she still wouldn't give him a divorce. She gave him a long leash, though. And as long as nothing got in the paper to jeopardize her place as wife of America's beloved humorist, she was satisfied.
Thought maybe I'd do some tapes with Eddie. You know,
Eddie?
Some of the boys in the band, maybe.
Yeah, Eddie in the band. You know, Eddie's one of the few people in the world who really liked Herb. Except, of course, the 150 million members of the Great Unwashed. They adored him.
What about Carol?
Joe. Now, lay off Carol. She's hitting the bottle again, and she's still sore at Herb over that last set, too.
What happened?
Believe me, you couldn't use it on the air. You couldn't even use it on the telephone.
How'd you get mixed up with Fuller in the first place?
Law of supply and demand. I needed a job. He needed a press agent.
Did you like him?
He was the great man, wasn't he?
Didn't you like him?
Well, that wasn't what I was hired for. I just worked for him. 150 million people liked him. One word from him, they'd change their toothpaste, their cigarettes, their shirts, maybe even their politics.
Herb's brand?
No, this is a different brand. A man has to retain a little integrity somewhere along the line. 2 bits for a pack of cigarettes that Fuller doesn't advertise. That's a pretty good buy on the integrity market.
Nick, how do you think I ought to start in on this thing? What do you think I ought to do first?
Well, Joe, I don't think you have any trouble. You've got enough junk in that pile to fill the New York Times from the first page right through to the real estate section. I think you're crazy if you don't bat it out from the clips. The trouble with Fuller is that you're going to sit down and talk to people that knew him. They're going to start talking, and you're going to be fascinated. But you won't hear a thing that you can use in the air. Then all of a sudden, you're going to wake up Friday night at 10 o'clock, and you won't have a show. Just remember that you're doing an obit. And nobody says anything bad about anybody in an obit.
Thanks, Nick. Now, look, I want you to call